master shows off his power by attacking 1,000 of his own soldiers!
Even though you could easily argue that Frieza is the most evil villain Goku has ever had to face, it's getting harder and harder to say he'll always be that way, because he's already saved billions of innocent lives, turning him into Goku's most needed ally, especially during a rare act of kindness. When Frieza was forced out of hiding. With his agreement obvious, Frieza put the weight of Universe 7's survival on his own shoulders. It was a sight no one thought we'd ever see, and yet, it was a side of Frieza we couldn't wait to see more of. But what stood out even more than Frieza's unselfishness was the new technique that he had just tapped into. A technique so impressive and so strong. It can take on power equal to that of a god and squash it. I'm having a special giveaway of $1,000 for the AniFam members. Best way to win is clicking the notification bell. I'll wait for 3 seconds. 3, 2, more details in pinned comment and description. And 1. Somehow, Goku had managed the impossible. But that didn't mean challenges weren't still standing in his way of victory. To take those obstacles down, he turned to this technique that he had finally mastered during his time in the world of Void, and shared it with the most unlikely of teammates. It was with this technique that he and Frieza forced the mortal stronger than his god of destruction to understand why Goku and his friends just wouldn't stop trying. With their flawless teamwork giving Frieza the title of Universe 7's hero, we were given a really important question to ask ourselves. Is Frieza turning good? It's easy to say yes, when almost the last thing we saw was of him helping Goku save the universe. But it's just as easy to say no, when the very last thing we saw was of him joining back up with his army. But when you focus too much on only one side of this argument, that's when you get into some trouble. And being as evil as he is, Frieza was never considered to help in this battle in the first place. It was only when Goku ran into some unlucky events that he was forced to face the only option he had. Curious as to why, of all the people in the entire world, Goku was the one to come visiting. Frieza knew he already had the upper hand. Only desperation could bring Goku down here. But just as quickly as he had been cut down from his tree, the tables of desperation had turned. Only one thing could get Frieza to fight like he actually cared. This was the same person who, for the sake of showing off his powers, trying to scare his enemies, had obliterated his own loyal army. And these same selfish motives that got him to join the team were brought back over and over again throughout the tournament. In everything Frieza did, there were two sides to the story. For instance, after sneaking Goku's fragile body away, Frieza returned the ultimate favor. But what seems like an act of respect ended up being the complete opposite. For someone who's shown so much change in character, it's funny how his two-sided actions never stopped. By the time only one enemy was left to fight, it was pretty clear there was no danger of Frieza betraying his team. Although he referred to it as just insurance, Frieza had still saved a teammate who would most likely never get up again. He had taken it on himself to go head-to-head against the person who had already defeated him before. And yet, in the middle of desperately trying to hold back what was looking like the finishing attack for them, Frieza had the nerve to ask, "So why even keep fighting?" You can look at Frieza's reassurance that Goku would keep his word and say that tells us everything we need to know about his future. Being that he asked at the very ending of the battle, it's clear nothing had actually changed Frieza. But the other side to Frieza's actions tell a totally different story. No one will ever forget how crazy perfect his teamwork was with Goku. However, that also means it's super easy to forget every other time his plans worked perfectly in sync with his other teammates. One plan you probably do remember was against Dispo. But that plan ended with Frieza more than happily eliminating his own teammate. Not very convincing in this side of the argument. But you might not remember the first time these two fought together, because it was also one of the many times Team Universe 7 feared Frieza was betraying them. Gohan was already turning out to be useless against the instant transmission powerhouse. But after suddenly deciding to help a teammate out, Frieza had just as suddenly changed his mind. Already trying to prove to himself that he could still be a fighter, Gohan didn't mind that Frieza had tricked him. Seemed he wasn't learning much in this fight, however, and he ended up waiting for his last seconds on the tournament stage to be over. This, Gohan didn't agree with. As their teammates sweated Frieza's betrayal out, they had zero clue that they were still getting Frieza's special treatment. Through this very risky plan, Frieza had his eyes opened, and probably without him even noticing, he admitted to this when he said, although with the influence of helping each other turning into a lot of effort being put into fighting for his universe, it's hard to remember that Frieza doesn't actually care about saving anyone, including himself. We had already seen this behavior when he first returned.
Here, this is the last one.
Thanks only to Vegeta, Goku had survived his battle against Golden Frieza. Too bad for the evil mastermind, Goku wasn't the only one who had learned to control his ki. With his energy already close to gone, fighting another Super Saiyan Blue was totally out of the question. It was either give up or go down with his enemies. What in the world kind of fan service has gotten into us? Is it not absolutely clear that Frieza has no intention on changing for the better? Actually, his intentions have nothing to do with it. Dragon Ball Super has been caught before taking stories from Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and simply reworking them to make it feel brand new. And nothing is stopping them from putting Frieza's story through this too. When he was first born into the show, Piccolo was, by his very nature, an evil person. Even after spending time and forming a bond with Gohan, he still had no intentions of changing his ways. But there was one reason Piccolo had for joining forces with his biggest enemy. Although they had separate reasons for going after him, both Piccolo and Goku planned to team up in order to defeat Cell. Unfortunately, it didn't matter the amount of power the Z Fighters used against him. Cell continued to tower over them in strength. Having done as much training as he felt was possible, Piccolo saw only one option for getting a big boost in power in only a short amount of time.
I'm ready, but let's get one thing straight. When we combine, we use my body, understand? Oh, no, Kami, no!
Piccolo has changed. The evil that once filled his entire being has greatly diminished.
Seeing the change in him before Piccolo could see it in himself, Kami was already picking up on the good in his past evil half. Not only because of Gohan, but because of the influence of those fighters he had teamed up with for a common goal. Piccolo's evil nature was already slipping away. If you had told yourself during those days that sometime in the future, Piccolo would be a good guy, you never would have believed it. And as early as the release of the Dragon Ball Super movie, just imagine what you could be saying about Frieza. But even more importantly, imagine what you'll be saying after I finish showing you how Goku never surpassed Vegeta.